Hey everyone, just sitting in my backyard. It's a beautiful day. A lot of butterflies out. If you didn't know, my husband Mike is an avid butterfly gardener. He's very passionate about his butterflies. So I just had some thoughts and wanted to make a video because some things that I had mentioned in another video that we made, just wanted to talk about a little bit more. And we just hadn't had an opportunity to talk about them in previous videos. So I'm talking a little quiet because, you know, I do have neighbors all around on every side of us. So anyways, so we talked about why we were making videos, and there really was sort of a pivotal moment that happened a couple of months ago that was inspirational, let's just say, inspirational about towards making our own videos now. We had been talking about it for a few months, but we sort of had lost our motivation, sort of lost our drive to get started. And I don't know, you get busy in life, and this is a dedication for sure. It's an act of love, actually, to do these because, we're very busy. Like we've said before, not only do we both work full-time, but, we have our own interests and hobbies and things that we pursue outside of everything else. So we're quite busy most nights of the week, in fact. So anyways, so I'm going to talk about what happened a couple months ago that it really gave us back our drive to start making our videos. So yeah, I had gone over to visit my parents, and I like to stop by at least once a week when they're down here. They spend their winters down here. So I like to stop by and see them because I love them and I want to maintain that relationship. When I first left the truth, quote unquote, the truth, 10 years ago, it was really strained. The relationship with them and with my sister was very strained, and phone calls stopped. Wasn't seeing them at the meetings anymore, so trying to stay in contact with them was something that I had to make a decision to do because I wanted to keep a relationship with them. I didn't want it to, get really weird. I mean, it was really weird actually for a couple of years. But I made it a point that once a week I would stop by their house regardless. And, it was uncomfortable in the beginning, and but I just kept doing it. I kept stopping by once a week at least, but I always made it an effort to do that because I wasn't getting any phone calls. They weren't stopping by to see me. Of course, I don't really blame them because I was going to school, so I wasn't home a lot. But on days that I had off, I went by. So I still do that. I still continue to do that as much as I can, and it's difficult now that I work full-time. So anyways, so I stopped by and was talking with them, and my dad was getting ready to go meet another elder for coffee. They like to go they're so funny. They go and have coffee every day, him and his other elder buddy, which I think is really cute. But I don't know what they're talking about. If they're talking about congregational stuff, that's kind of lame. But either way, so that he was getting ready to go meet his friend for lunch, and shoves right in my face the brochure, Return to Jehovah. And he says, well, I know you like to read and thought you might enjoy this. And of course, my blood just began to boil. I was so angry because I feel like, after all this time and everything I've said to you, which I've tried not to say too much, I've really tried to keep it just, about family business, about what's going on in my life. Anytime they try to talk about the religion, you know, I'll listen respectfully, but you know, I really try to divert the subject so that we don't talk about that stuff. And in the beginning, especially the first 5 years, anytime my dad got the opportunity, I mean, he's in elder mode, so he was trying to shove it in my face all the time, and you know, trying to give me literature and wanted to know what my doubts were, what the beliefs were that I questioned. And I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to, you know, first of all, I know that I'm not going to change their thinking because they're so indoctrinated. I know that Zoe's out here with me. She loves to just lay in the dirt. Okay, good girl. But, oh, I might have to put her inside. All right, so I know that they believe with everything they have, they believe that this is the truth. And I know I'm not going to change that. I know that there's nothing that I can say that's going to wake them up. I mean, if they're going to wake up, it's going to be from something that they read, something that happens. I mean, I feel like if my dad's own father, who essentially turned apostate in the last years of his life, if my dad's father couldn't wake him up, then there's no way that I could wake him up. So I'm not even going to try. But he wanted to know what my doubts were and would press and press and press and press. And until, you know, there was one conversation about 4 years ago, I guess, and it got heated from his point of view. On his side, it got heated. I've never seen my dad lose his temper like this, but he actually did lose his temper. And he was like, you know, what is it that you don't believe? And I said, Dad, no matter what I tell you, I know as a Jehovah's Witness what you've been trained to respond, what scriptures you've been trained, what so-called scientific proof you have that can dispute anything that I've said. I've been trained the same way you've been trained. I know what you're going to say, so there's no point in going over this over and over and over again. And, you know, that wasn't good enough, so I just said, okay, let's just take the flood of Noah. And I won't get into all of that here, but, you know, anybody who's done any research, who's watching these videos, you know what I'm talking about, how that story scientifically is impossible. It's impossible that that happened the way that the Bible says it did. And, you know, he actually had to agree with me that it, you know, that they don't understand it, basically, and that they just have to have faith. And, you know, then we were talking about how long humans have been on the earth, and, you know, that it's ridiculous to believe that humans have only been here for, you know, what, 7,000 years, 6,000 years, whatever they think. And, you know, he got real quiet, and I said, Dad, is there any part of you that thinks she might have a point? And his response was, well, if that's true, then my whole life has been a waste. And I was just like, you know, that just devastated me because I don't believe that, you know. I said, Dad, that's not true. I mean, regardless of what the witnesses teach and the cult that it is, I know that there are people that have come out of, you know, being addicted to drugs and alcohol and really might have been leading a self-destructive life who actually have benefited, at least for the interim, for getting out of that lifestyle. So, you know, I know that my parents have really worked to help people. Yeah, they've wanted to bring them into the religion, but, you know, they also have helped them in other ways. So, you know, and I said, you know, we had a nice family life, you know, you worked hard, mom was able to stay home, You weren't running around on her, you know. So in that regard, we had a really good, you know, family life. So how can you say that it's been a waste? So then I said, well, I said, regardless of if you're right or I'm right, one day we're gonna die. Basically, I said, if you're right, I'm gonna die at Armageddon. Doesn't it make sense that we make the best of the time that we have left? And then I said, if I'm right, then we're both gonna die in this system. And you probably before me, since you're older than me, doesn't it make sense that we make the best of the time that we have left? So either way, we should be making the best of this time that we have together, because life is short. So kind of left it at that, and really hasn't pressed anything towards me since then, hasn't tried to give me any literature. So then he tried to give me that brochure, and I just exploded, because I'm like, haven't we moved past this? And it feels like so disrespectful towards me for him to try to be giving me literature after he knows how I feel. So then he leaves, and I'm stuck there with my mom. And, you know, my mom, bless her heart, she always tries to pretend like things didn't just happen. She tries to smooth things over. And so she's just going about, you know, talking, acting like nothing just happened. And I was just stewing. Of course, I was in the middle of listening to all of the recording, the videos from the Australian Royal Commission. So, you know, I was like, you know, ready to pop from listening to all of this bull that was being spewed from these elders. So, so I just said to my mom, Mom, is there ever a moment where you have any doubts about this religion? And she was just kind of like, well, you know, the longer I'm in it, the more I've proved it to myself. And so, you know, I brought up about the child abuse scandals, and she was aware of it, actually. You know, they had actually watched part of Jeffrey Jackson's testimony, and I was shocked by that, because I'm like, oh, if they're watching that, then that means they must be on a quote-unquote apostate site, because that's the only sites that I've seen that testimony on. And how did they see that, you know? So that's a story for another day. But they actually did watch part of his testimony, and I was like, you know, he lied. And she was, you know, kind of back and forth about it, like, you know, oh, you know, there. Basically, her stance was, oh, the elders have come, the society has come so far, they've changed their policies, and, you know, they encourage people to go to the police, and they support them and all this stuff. And so, you know, I did bring out what the current Shepherd the Flock book says about it, and she was shocked that I knew what was said in the book. How do you know that? I said, Mom, it's online. The whole book, we have it. It's online. So that was a little shocking to her that I had that book. But, you know, one thing that she said that she's asked me before, and my dad has accused me of, is thinking that my mom is stupid. My dad has said before, do you just think your mom is stupid? And I've always said, no, I've never said that. I've never implied that, ever. I don't think that my mom is stupid. I think that she is very smart. So she said, do you think I'm stupid? Do you think that I don't do any research? And I said, well, I think you do research, but I said, I don't think you're doing any research outside of the Watchtower publications. And she says, well, I do. And so I said, well, then I challenge you. One thing for you to research. When did Babylon destroy Jerusalem. I said, you will find that the witnesses are the only group, pretty much. I don't know of any other groups, maybe there are, but I said they're the only group that believes that it happened in 607. There is just tons of evidence, because the Babylonians were such great record keepers, that it was around 586 BCE. So I said, I challenge you to research that on your own. And then what followed was really shocking to me, because she is the person, and I remember her teaching me how to calculate the 607 date to 1914. She's the one who taught me that. So what followed was, well, what does it matter if they have the wrong date for the destruction of Jerusalem? What does it even matter to our beliefs? My mouth fell on the floor. I was completely shocked. I said, Mom, if you don't have 607, then you don't have 1914. And 1914 is what this religion was based on. It's the primary doctrine of your religion. That's when Jesus was enthroned as king in heaven and cast Satan out, and the beginning of the end. So then that kind of proceeded to the generations and discussion, and I said that was a ridiculous explanation. I said, but I understand that they have to change the teaching on that, because otherwise they were wrong. I said, so they have to change that teaching. Because she was like, oh, well, we have new light on the generations. So anyways, it was like a 2-hour discussion, and very uncomfortable, very hard for me to do, because I love and respect my parents. I don't want to make them feel bad. In fact, one of the other primary reasons, even knowing that I was never going to be able to change their beliefs, the other reason was I didn't want them to go through what I went through when I woke up, and how, I can't put it any other way but that I suffered. I suffered knowing that I had been lied to and that my family was being lied to. And I was just like, you know what, maybe it's better to remain in the dark and not know. They're getting up there in years, they're happy, their congregation is a nice congregation, and they have a purpose in life, they feel, and they've been in it for so long that I didn't want them to wake up. I thought, it wasn't my, and I still think it's not my job to wake them up. If they're gonna wake up, it's gonna happen, it's gonna be something that probably I wouldn't even expect would be something that would wake them up, because it's different for every person. So that was a very uncomfortable conversation, and I called Mike and I said, well, I think I've just stirred a hornet's nest, because I truly was speaking like an apostate, which I've avoided doing all these years, an apostate in their minds. And I even said to my mom, I said, you're an apostate of your religion that you came from. And, I also said that the hardest part for me was knowing I was going to break their hearts. And, but then I said, don't you realize that you broke your parents' hearts too? And that seemed to be a thought that I don't think she'd ever thought about. But she did, because my grandparents, only had the 3 of us as their grandchildren. And they were so looking forward to Christmas and birthdays, and that was taken away from them. They didn't get to experience, well, they got to experience, I think, 2 Christmases before my parents became witnesses. So anyways, so that was what happened, and that gave us motivation to get started. Sort of lit our fire, and We love our families so much and we respect them. We don't want to bring them any pain. But at some point, you have to live your own life and you have to speak your own truth. They did. They certainly did. Any opportunity they got with their parents, they did. And I'm trying not to do that. I respect them and I don't want to make things uncomfortable. But, you know, if there are those in my family who have questions and want to know more, then I'm going to be ready. I'm going to be prepared to speak to them. And, you know, I have a feeling that there are some within my family that are starting to wake up. So, you know, there's always hope. But anyways, so I just wanted to make this video by myself to talk about something that's very personal to me. And, you know, my goal, I mean, I don't want to bring any shame or embarrassment to my family by what I've said. I'm just trying to share what happened. And I know that they're good people and that they love me and that they really believe that this is the truth and that they really believe that they're doing what's right. And they're, you know, so I'm not mad at them. You know, I love them and I want them to be happy. Sometimes I feel like they're not happy. And, you know, I can truly say that I'm happy and that I'm very content and moving on with my life. So, you know, I just want that for everyone, including my family. Thanks for watching.